Ooh. Hey, Mito-san. But that's a bar, okay. I suppose that's the first big difference. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can already tell it's quite the dramatic shift, right? The tone. It's so 90s. Ah, Jing. Whoa. Stranger on the Tides, eh? Look at that, another really significant difference. Whoa. Yeah.
だって約束したのよ。日暮れまでには帰ってくるようにって。約束を守れないような人間にはなってほしくないの。あの子、ゴンだけは。
Yeah.
心配せんでも大丈夫さ。ゴンはしっかりした子だよ。
Grandma has a different understanding for Gon
忘れ
already.
ちゃダメだよ。あんたは母親代わりにはなれても、ゴンの父親の代わりにはなれないんだ。
It's almost as if she's giving Mito-san a bit of a reality check, right? She's really quite blunt. Whoa. It's really quite... Oh, I love the tones, man. The color design. Who is this? Oh. Yeah. I like it. Oh. Ooh. Hunter license, right? It's like, oh no. Oh, that's a much younger Gon. It's like the encounter theme from an RPG. Whoa. Who is this, man? Hmm.
こんな時期にエビブナの群生地に入るやつがあるか。見ろ、縄張りのシグナルを。あれを見たらどんなのんきな動物でも逃げちまうほどやばいもんだ。
But this is gone.
前の親父はそんなことも教えてくれなかったのか。まだラリスの警戒音なんて無視すればよかったぜ。
Yeah, I saw that. The focus pull.
やっちまった。
Ooh. Such a disgusting kill.
母さんも俺が生まれてすぐ事故に遭って死んだって。
Oh.
俺おばさんの世話になってるんだ。
Oh.
何？
俺が育てる。
無理だ。キツネグマは
Fox bear.
それでも。
Ooh. Did you see something, stranger? That almost kind of reminded me of the captain from the 2011 episode 1.
ご
Oh.
めんなさい。
Hello to Mito-san.
ゴン、この傷はどうしたの？
その森で転んじゃって。
ミトさん。その傷は転んだ傷じゃないわ。
I like it.
本当のことを言わないなら一晩中外にいるのね。
Yeah, she doesn't want him to
わかった
lie.
よ、ミトさん。嘘ついてごめんなさい。親とはぐれたキツネグマの子供を見つけて、それで捕まえようとして。
Bit of a hybrid. Is she going to buy it though?
いいわ。入りなさい。
Acceptable. Ooh. Oh, this is so moody and dreary. Atmospheric. Yeah, yeah, this is good. Yeah, yeah, he recognized that. That look. He knows that look, doesn't he? Now the question is, how come he's headed here, or how come he showed up here on this island? Huh. Look at this, bit of a mentor figure. Kite.
ハンターって？
Whoa.
世の中は不思議なことだらけだ。
Oh, how cool.
貴重で入手困難なアイテムを追いかけ
This
てる
is
やつなの。
Gon's introduction.
ここにはどうして来たの？
Yeah, do tell.
俺の先生を探してな。
先生？
ああ。先生に認めてもらうための最終試験が。
Is that not Gon's mission?
まあ、これがどんなハントよりもやたら難しい。
Right. Oh, beautiful backgrounds, man. Look at this.
昨日、両親は死んだって言ってたな。親父のことは知ってるか？
Okay.
あんまりミトさん
His teacher
教えて
is
くれない
Jing,
し
isn't it?
そうか。名前は？
ジンフリークスって言うんだ。
Jing freaks. Let's see how he reacts to that.
お前の親父は生きている。
He knows him. That's his teacher, isn't it?
今も世界
That's why he showed up.
お前の親父、ジンフリークスは俺の先生だ。 ハンターだ。
ハンター。
This is really different, folks. Really different.
この世で最高の
The best in the world.
俺知りたいんだ、父さんのこと。教えてよ、ミトさん。
教えてって、ごく普通の人よ。
Really quite
この
dismissive.
店をやっていて、あなたが生まれる前に事故で死んだの。
Lily and James Potter died in a car crash.
辛いようだけど、死んだ人のことは早く忘れてほしかったの。私は父親
Move
代わ
on,
り
eh?
にはなれないかもしれないけど、あなたに寂しい思いはさせてないつもりよ。
Interesting.
ミトさんが嘘をつくわけってなんだろう。それに父さんが生きてるならなんで会いに来て
Whoa,
くれないの。
this is another major difference right here,
それって
folks.
やっぱり捨てられたってこと
Yeah. This is Kite, eh?
あ、お店はまだですよ。
すまない。急いでるんだ。
Do I know this voice? And what about Gon's voice?
お母さんごめんなさい、遅れちゃって。ゴンがどこに、お客さんだったのね。
Oh, blushing.
すいません、お構いもせず。
いや、こっちこそ迷惑をかけたからな。
Is he just kind of like checking in? Oh.
俺は余計なことをしまったのかもしれない。だが、あいつは。
後悔するよ。
Whoa.
燃やすつもりならいつでもできたろう。それをなんで今さら。
お母さん、
Yeah, there's much more of a focus on Mito-san and her headspace.
男の子はいつかは親の元を旅立っていくんだよ。それは仕方ないことなのさ。
あいつと同じように。
ああ、あの子の目が持つ光は
Right,
父親
and
そっ
Kite,
くりだ。
Kite saw that too, eh?
血は争えないのさ。
It's in his blood, in his
あい
DNA.
つは優秀なハンターの器量だよ。何よりいいハンターってのは。
Ah, you don't say. Right. So far, so good. I really like it. Really dig it.
ハンター試験は12歳になれば受けられる。
Wow.
それまでどう過ごそうと勝手だがな。
これは、
ハンター試験の応募カード。
俺ハンター試験を受けたい。
Oh boy.
どうして。
俺知ってたんだ、全部。父さんが生きてるってこともハンターだってことも。
Is she going
俺
to
ハン
ask
ター
how
に
you
なって
found out?
父さんを見つけ出したいんだ。
この3年、ゴンを見てて分かったよ。いつかはそう言い出すんじゃないかってね。
Yeah, Grandma's really quite dialed in, eh?
ミト、分かっておやりよ。
There's a bit of selfishness, perhaps, on display on both
一
ends.
つ条件があるわ。
But it's a different type of selfishness, right? She doesn't want to lose him. Really quite protective.
ゴンが沼の主をつるむ
Ah, okay, now it's
1週間でだとミトちゃんもずいぶん難しい問
Five
題出した
grown
な。
あれぐらいできなきゃ、ハンターなんか一生なれないわ。
now. I know that Jing was able to do it around the same age, right? They didn't mention that in this one though. So I guess Mito-san's kind of gauging it.
この引きはうわーつかつかうわっ
The voice, do I know this voice? Ooh. Okay, that's not it. That's not the fishing rod, is it? It's really quite a simplistic bamboo fishing rod.
また失敗ね。
I love that.
ミトさん。
いい加減諦めたら。
やだ、絶対釣る。約束だからね。俺ハンターになるんだから。ハンターになって父さんを探すんだ。
あいつはまだ赤ん坊だったあんたを捨てたのよ。
Oof. Harsh. But she's not holding back here.
ジンはハンターだった。長いこと旅に出てはたまに戻るだけ。ジンがいない間、姉さんは寂しい思いをしてた
My
わ。
sister.
私はそんな姉さんを見ているのが辛かった。そしてジンが憎らしかったわ。ハンターが何をって思ってた。家
Understandable.
族も子供まで捨てて、そんなあいつを探すためにあなたハンターになるつもりなの？
でも
This is the same as
子
the
供を
scene
捨ててまで続けたいと思う仕事なんだね。
in Gon's room in
すごい仕事。
2011.
ハンターって。
But again, his tone is so different though.
あなた、やっぱりあいつの子供
That
だ。
he is. Mito-san, that he is. So, how about the sister now? Is she not in the picture anymore? Ooh. That's it, isn't it? It
ジンが
is.
使っていたものよ。それで釣れなかったら。
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
ミト
She
さん
made the effort.
ありがとう。俺、こ
To
の
help
水
him
槽
out.
で沼の主を絶対釣ってみせ
She
るよ。
knows there's a good chance he might do it if she gives him that. Yet she did it. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Of course, the score itself is also, really 90s. But it's really quite fitting for this tone. and familiar to a lot of us 90s kids, right? From gaming and stuff as well. Oh, it's taking a bit of a different approach even to this.
来た来たルシだ
The guardian fish. Man, 90s anime has such a charm about it. I love it. Oh, I like how it's kind of hidden in the shadows, in the darkness, in the depth. I'll get a look. I'll get a look at it.
やったー
Ah, there's something so familiar and wholesome about that
約束だよ
that score.
さんこれでハンター試験を受けてもいいね約束を守れないような人間になるなって教えてくれたのはミトさんだよ
好きにしなさい
So she signed off on it as a guardian, I
あり
suppose.
がとう
I mean, she understands it's really tough on Mita-san. Gon doesn't quite get it at that age. Ah, nice. Put it back in. Oh my god. That's the cub, isn't it? Oh, fox bear. Hey, Kite said something like, oh, it's nearly impossible for a fox bear to take to a human, right? Look at that.
ごめんなさいゴン私ゴンに嘘ついてたジンがゴンを捨てたんじゃないの私が裁判であなた
Whoa.
の養育権をジンから奪い取ったの
But even so, she felt clearly that she had to do it.
嘘だって気づいてただってミトさん俺に嘘つくとき絶対に俺の顔
Is that the lie or? Ah, right.
ミトさんの匂い本当の母さんの匂いは知らないけど
Ah,
ミ
yeah.
トさんの匂いは母さんの匂いだ俺どこへ行っても忘れないミトさんは母さんと一緒だ
最終試験は彼を探し当てることこれが
Okay, that's gotta be Jing's most difficult hunt.
最高のハンターだ
This is so 90s as well, isn't it? I mean, it's straight from the manga though, right?
父さん会いに行くよ
Okay. Is this supposed to be Gon's room? Right, it is. It's the, yeah. He's gone, Mito-san. Not for good, but yeah. No, it's understandable how she feels though. It's like her own child, basically. I'm about to go ask for Mito-san's hand in marriage.
いってらっしゃい
Oh, look at this. The cell animation really showing through. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, Hunter x Hunter 1999, episode 1. Listen, folks, I've got to say that's a better pilot. It is, top to bottom. It's far more complete, right? It certainly is far more complete. It certainly adds, quite a bit more context. It just feels far more dense in terms of the amount it's kind of able to cover, right? A lot of exposition, and a lot of focus on integral characters or supporting cast members, be it Mito-san, right? Be it a character that's not even included at all in 2011. And before I go any further, I'll refer to this as not 1999. I'll just go 99, and then to the new one as 2011, right? To keep it simple. But yeah, Kite is omitted altogether from the pilot of 2011. Huh. Now, before I go any further, both points, Kite, and then of course, the extensive focus on Mito-san and her struggle, her internal struggle, and actually kind of putting us in her headspace. And also, in that sense, it's quite a bit more emotional, isn't it? It's quite a bit more dramatic. And I'll get to that side of things as well, of course, the directional choices, the production choices, and all of that. Now, of course, this came out long before 2011, of course. But the thing is, at this point, I'm not really sure. I just don't know because, it's not something I can really look into. I'm not sure if this is more in line with, the manga, the source material, or if that's 2011. I suppose you'll have to let me know. And of course, naturally, there is going to be a lot of similarities, right? Because it comes from the same source material. But these are two totally different tones altogether, right? As far as the approach goes. And, of course, it can be a matter of preference as well. But, as a whole, I just think this is a better pilot episode. But going back to my point about, the focus on Mito-san already here in episode 1, or the omission of Kite altogether from 2011's pilot, I've seen already that 2011 has already rearranged things. I've seen, things that have played out in this episode already kind of play out in 2011, just over the span of, a few story arcs, perhaps. An example of that is Mito-san, right? Hell, I think right there, 2011 actually pulls it off a bit more, or executes it a bit more effectively, in my opinion, at least. The payoff is a bit more poignant. As far as the emotional beats go, at the end of this episode, at the end of this pilot already, I see Gon make the claim that, indeed Mito-san is his mother, right? He's the mother he's always had. Or sorry, she's the mother he's always had. Her smell is the smell of his mother, right? And that's how he sees her. Now, if you compare this to 2011's take on this, I think 2011, I don't know, it feels a bit more significant, right? Because by the time Gon comes back home, and of course, at this point, Killua accompanies him as well. And, before they're about to depart, I believe that's around the time he tells Mito-san, you're my mother. You're the mother I've always had, right? I've never felt that absence. I just feel that it's a bit more impactful, right? It just resonates a bit more, means a bit more, right? Because, it's all happening over the span of this episode here. In this episode, him claiming or making the claim that, you're the mother I've always had. And, I've been content. But there in 2011, it's over the span again of, a few story arcs, right? After I get to know Gon quite a bit. And then of course, as far as rearranging goes, in that mini arc, Gon and Killua coming back home to Gon's home, you do get that focus. You do get that focus on Mito-san. And that's a focus I got here in this episode. But even so, I think the Mito-san that I get to meet in this episode, 99's pilot, she's a bit more jaded. She feels to hold a bit more of a grudge against Jing, right? And in this case, in terms of differences, you see that it's Mito-san's sister that marries Jing, right? So there's another level to this, another element added to this, right? And the thing is, they didn't really confirm anything about Gon's mom. They did confirm that it's Mito-san's sister. So, she's actually Gon's aunt. She's legitimately his aunt. Mito-san, that is. But the sister's not around? Am I to just assume? She didn't leave. That'd be crazy. I don't think she left Gon. So is she like gone? As in, like, is she dead? They didn't confirm anything, but I don't know. Just the thought of the idea of her also kind of leaving Gon because she just couldn't handle it or she couldn't take it. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing possibilities out there. I don't believe this or believe in this possibility, but I'm kind of thinking out loud. So I don't know. So see, the tricky bit is that I have to be careful about the things I apply to my run in 2011. From this episode. Because some things are certainly really different, but some things are similar, right? And some things could play a part in the 2011 run as well, of course. Because I'm sure, there's a reason this has been recommended quite a bit by many of you. But the fact that that is a thing, it is a little bit concerning because, now, it sounds like I need context from a totally different, version of this to make sense or to potentially make sense of something in 2011's run, right? So that's how it kind of sounds like. So let's see, how this comes into play. But going back to my initial point, that's a tricky bit. I can't completely apply everything from this to 2011's run, right? Even the whole story on Jing is a little bit different here, right? She lies to Gon. Hopefully I have this correct. Because it got a little bit confusing right at the end there, just a little bit confusing, just a presentation, I suppose. So she tells Gon that she lied about Jing abandoning him as a baby, and Gon replies, "Yeah, I knew," because he knows her body language anytime she lies. So she lied about him abandoning him as a baby because, in truth, she actually took him to court, and she got custody of Gon because essentially she felt that Jing is unfit to be a father. And as a whole, I think she just felt that this is a far better choice for Gon and his upbringing, right, and his safety. So yeah, they didn't none of this is in 2011, in 2011's pilot, or even the return back home, that little mini arc. There's nothing about getting custody. So I do have to keep some things separate, right? But then, of course, from the sounds of it, some things are going to be playing a part. But let me shift the focus to the stylistic approach and, kind of compare it to 2011. Listen, this is really, really, yeah, you guys know me, because this is something I can really appreciate. It is up my alley. It manages to create such a distinct atmosphere, right? Such a distinct tone. It's certainly a bit more darker right from the beginning, and in that sense, as a whole, it feels a bit more grounded in comparison to 2011. It's even a little bit eerie, isn't it? It's somber. It's just really quite gritty and soggy and dirty, lived in. It truly feels lived in. And it's coursing with melancholy, isn't it? It's really quite soulful, and it just has this charm and quite a bit of personality. It's really, really quite the stark contrast to 2011's tone. But also, a few of these things are present because it is a product of its time, right? It is a production of that era, and it's just simply not something you can make today, right? And that's why it's so unique and charming. I felt that the storyboarding is a standout here. Of course, since it is a product of its time, it is 4:3. So of course, the framing and the composition, of course, took that into account. And yeah, I am a fan of that. I am a fan of 4:3. How about that color design? That is one of the standouts of this episode. You've got those browns and those greens, those grays, right? Again, it plays a big part in establishing that tone and atmosphere. And of course, a fantastic selection of backgrounds throughout the episode. It just felt like I saw so much in this episode. And as far as character designs go, yeah, it's pretty similar, isn't it? I felt that Mito-san looked a little bit younger in this. She is a little bit younger because, at least half of the episode is a much younger Gon. And then there's a bit of a time skip, 3 years to be exact. But she still kind of looked the same even after the time skip. I was kind of crushing on Mito-san, to be honest. But yeah, I'd say Killua, and this is based on the openings, Killua and Leorio probably looked the most different in comparison to the 2011 counterparts. Killua's hair is a little bit different, I suppose. So is Leorio's. It's a little bit shorter and more spiky. Even 2011 Leorio has spiky hair, but it's just a bit shorter, and he just looked a little bit older in general as well. But the voice acting, I've got to say, they actually did a really good job of, and I'm speaking of 2011 at this point, they did a good job of actually getting similar sounding voice actors, unless one or maybe even two of them might actually be the same actors. I don't think that's the case here, but it still sounded similar enough. And, at this point, I'm thinking about this tone, this really specific tone for some of the stuff that comes a little bit later, stuff like the York New City arc. A few of you certainly recommended that I check out some of the episodes or some of the really specific scenes from the 99 take on York New City. But, my thing is, I don't really want to do it out of order because I do want to watch it. Now I've seen episode 1, but I do want to watch it from, episode 2 and on. So I certainly plan on doing that. But the only thing is, I'm not sure if it is going to be a reaction series. If there's enough interest, maybe it can be, but it would have to be, after 2011 wraps up. I mean, it's a completely different approach, right? And that approach actually changes the character quite a bit, as far as Gon is concerned. Because in 2011's take on this, potential abandonment issue, it's a completely different approach. It's far more subtle, isn't it? I feel that in 2011, you can see these issues kind of manifesting in, in other things, right? They take a different approach. And I think out of the two, I think I maybe prefer the more subtle approach of 2011. Because, it just that feels more like Gone to me. But yeah, it's really quite clear cut in 99, isn't it? There's that one scene of him just, having a moment out there, right? He's really, truly upset. And, he's legitimately, voicing these concerns now, right? I think it's internal monologue, actually, but you get my point. Right? How come he doesn't come to see me? And this is, of course, after he found out that indeed he is alive. And, speaking of father figures, speaking of mentors, I'll get to Kite. I'll get to Kite in a bit because he certainly is that, right? He certainly takes up that role, even in the limited appearance he gets here, and perhaps a limited amount of time he spends with Gon. I think he's integral. He plays a massive role, actually, in his trajectory. And that's one of the reasons it just makes it so baffling that he's omitted altogether from 2011, right? If indeed I can apply a lot of these things to 2011, this stranger who shows up on this island, and of course it makes a bit more sense a little bit later on. It turns out that Gon's father, Jing, is actually his sensei, right? His teacher, and he's essentially on the same mission that Gon is on at the moment. In 2011, and the mission he's about to embark in 99 as well by the end of this episode. Kite actually refers to it as the final test, and the test itself is to make, or this is from his perspective, to make my teacher acknowledge me, right? Is for me to find him. This is the final step, or the final test, and his search brings him to the island, and he doesn't run into his sensei, his teacher, but he does run into someone that could be just as special as Jing, right? Jing's son. There's that moment that I kind of also get in the 2011 pilot as well. That time it's through, the captain of the ship, right? He sees something in Gon, and it reminds him of Jing, right? Of course, he confirms it a little bit later on. And I believe he said something like, "Oh, the time has come now, right, for Jing's son to make to take the same journey or take the same path." Here in 99's pilot, it's Kite, right? Kite sees something in Gon. He sees that, something in his eyes. And then, of course, resemblance as well. At the most foundational level, the resemblance, of course, is there. But, there's that light in his eyes. The grandma actually mentions this twice, I think. Or maybe not twice, but she mentions it, doesn't she? It's in the blood, it's in his DNA. And, Kite picks up on this as well. But yeah, Kite felt the need, or maybe even the responsibility, to make sure that Gon knows his father is alive, right? That's his sensei, that's Kite's sensei. But, the thing is, a little bit later on, he does have some doubts about this as well, that he might have done something he shouldn't have done, perhaps, right? But it's done, right? It's done. But imagine being Gon at that moment, right? From thinking that your parents are dead to then finding out that not only is your father alive, but he is essentially one of the best in his profession, right? He's highly respected. And this person that's in front of me right now in Kite, who easily could be, my own mentor figure. And I'm speaking from Gon's perspective, of course. someone I've learned from quite a bit already in this, short amount of time is actually my father's student. So it immediately kind of paints this vivid picture of Jing as this larger than life figure. I mean, Kite calls him the best hunter in the world, doesn't he? Right? Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, perhaps, but certainly one of the best. But of course, since that is his sensei, you can understand how he might think that he is the best to do it. He is the best around. Now, of course, naturally, I'm also thinking about how exactly Kite came across Jing, or how exactly did Jing come across Kite. But yeah, a little bit later, he proceeds to just explain everything, right? The nature of the world of hunters. The world is full of mysteries, or filled, I think. Yeah, filled. And, hunters are the ones who pursue these mysteries. And I do get this in 2011's pilot as well, but not just the pilot, just, the first stretch of those episodes, right? The opening, the narrator tells me this, the nature of the world, the nature of hunters. Now, Grandma certainly believes that Gon is independent, and he certainly is. He is. And, I think there's another really interesting line of dialogue. The wilderness is his father. Yeah, that grandma, old timer, old head. She was really quite dialed in, right? Really quite blunt. She just knew this is coming, and she's trying to give Mito-san a bit of a reality check as well, that she's going to have to accept this. But yeah, I really like that this idea is brought up here in 99's pilot, the wilderness being his father. You see, even in 2011, the pilot for 2011, that he is in his element. That's been clear since day one. That's his element. That's how he developed his instincts. You see in that episode that as he is fishing, these animals are just kind of surrounding him, right? Because they feel that he's friendly, that he's a friend, right? And then of course in this episode you see someone like Kite, someone really quite experienced, an experienced hunter. He said that a mark of a good hunter is to be liked by animals, right? I certainly see that. I certainly see that quite a bit in this in this pilot, much more so than 2011. There's hints of that in 2011, like I mentioned that one scene here, and of course a little bit later on the ship, right, as he's able to read the language, the body language, or just the behavior of the seagulls, right? And he tells the captain of the ship, there's a major storm ahead. It's coming in hard. But all of that being said, this episode still kind of focuses on the idea of, him needing a father figure, or the absence of a father figure. And Grandma tells Mito-san, she reminds her that, she cannot play that role, right? She can do a lot of things for Gon, but she cannot play that specific role. And that brings me once again to Kite, right? Who does kind of function as a father figure. He does. First of all, he saves Gon, right? And then of course a bit of tough love. Gives him a little smack, and then of course finds out that this child's parents are dead, right? And he immediately kind of changes his demeanor. But yeah, I think he does kind of provide a bit of structure, a bit of direction. He gives Gon plenty of direction, actually. Like I mentioned, he's kind of integral in Gon's trajectory, right? He tells him about hunters. He tells him about the hunter exam. It's actually kind of crazy how big of a role Kite plays in Gon's life, his early life. And I brought this up in the discussion for episode 72, no, 71. Yeah, it's around the time Tezagera felt the need to talk to Gon, right after Gon's most recent outburst. It's Genthuru on the other end. This is right after the dodgeball game. There in that discussion, I kind of compared Gon and Killua's upbringing, right? Of course, Killua certainly had structure. He certainly had that father figure. He had more than one, father figure in that sense. Gon simply did not have that, right? And, at the end of the day, it simply has to play a part. It does. But another really interesting thing about Kite is his reaction to having to kill that fox bear, right? The parent. the full-on adult fox bear that is essentially having to go at Gon because Gon got himself or landed himself in that situation. I believe he said, "I haven't done such a disgusting kill in a long time," right? So this is not someone who kills for the sake of killing. He's actually quite apologetic to the beast that he had to do this, right? But it had to be done. And I really like that in both 2011 and 99's pilot, you have two different lessons from Mito-san, right? In 2011, Gon explains to the captain of the ship, right? And this is after, Leorio and Kurapika are having a bit of a moment, right? And, Kurapika or Leorio essentially tells him, meet me upstairs, let's settle it. And Gon tells the captain that Mito-san told him that if you want to know someone, right, you need to make an effort to learn, why exactly they're angry. And in the 99 pilot, it's all about, building that character, right? She didn't want him to be someone who is deceptive, someone who lies. And it's funny how he kind of turns it on her. And I've got to say the sound design is really quite noticeable as well. And also I've got to say that the fishing scene, or him catching that fish, I mean, they use two different names for it in this, but I think even that scene is better. It's certainly executed better in 99's pilot. And of course, the score is also so fitting. And yeah, it is a product of its time, right? But it's so good. It really is so good. But yeah, that should do it for this one. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or full opacity, or timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel in the process. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.